Number Theory Section 1 Programming. Video 5 Using Return. In the last video we saw how to make functions and how to use print to display results on the screen. We're now going to look at how you can use another function, return, instead of print, which will allow you to do slightly different things with your programs. Return provides an output from a function which can then be used elsewhere. For example, we've got a function here that returns 1 if a number is even and 0 if a number is odd. So, the function has been defined, it's called isEven, and it takes a parameter n. If I do the test to see if n is even, the function returns 1. That means that the function ends because it's got to a statement where it has to return something. However, if it doesn't go through the logic of this loop, instead it returns 0. Notice the indentation here. The if statement then gets indented like this. There's this empty white space here that Python puts in automatically for us. If it doesn't give the return 1 value here, instead the program executes this bit next, which is to return 0. And here are some examples of what would happen if we'd written this function. If I try isEven with 3, it will check, is 3 even? No, it's not, so it returns 0. Is 5 even? No, it's not, so it returns 0. Is 8 even? Yes, it is, so it returns 1. Let's have a look at that in a shell window. So let's start by defining our function. Def isEven, which will take a parameter which I'm calling a. And I want to test if n is even. So if, when I divide n by 2, I get a remainder of 0, then it is even, so I want my function to return a value of 1. However, if it goes through the if loop and doesn't get success, I instead want it to return a value of 0. So I can test this. If I want to know, is 7 even, I type the name of my function, if is even, and give it the value 7, and it returns 0 because 7 is not even. Or I could say, is 18 even? And it returns the value 1 because 18 is even. Now we can use the previous function isEven to count how many even numbers there are in a given range. And to do that, I'm going to define a new function which I've called howManyEvens, which again takes a parameter n to tell me how many evens there are up to and including n. I've also defined a variable here called howMany, and howMany starts off with 0, and I'm going to increase it as I find even numbers in the range. So for I in range 1 to n plus 1, I want to go all the way up and including n. My howMany value starts with whatever howMany was originally, and then it adds on the value of isEven I. So if I is an even number, it adds 1, and if I isn't an even number, it adds 0. So that means that by the end of it, it started at 0, it's added 1 for every even number it found, and so I can print howMany, and it will tell me how many even numbers there are. So how many even numbers are there up to and including 10? There are 5. Let's have a look at that in the shell. So my isEven function is still there from before. So now I'm going to define my function howManyEvens, which takes a parameter n. I'm going to start with my howMany counter, which I'm going to set to be equal to 0. And then I'm going to say for I in range from 1 all the way up to n plus 1, And then what I want it to do is, I want it to take the original value of how many and to replace that with how many plus is even I. So that means that it will start off at 0 and then it will take whatever its current value is and add on to it 0 if the number's odd or 1 if the number is even. And then I want to finish off by printing how many. So if I say how many evens are there up to and including 20, it gives me the answer 10. In this video, you've learned how you can use return to change the output of a function depending on a condition that we use an if statement for, and how you can use one function as part of another one.